We have been studying about the falls of Satan. We are talking about how Satan is cast out from his position of authority. Each time he is cast out to a lower position than what he held before. The first fall, as we have seen, was when he was cast out of the third heaven to the second heaven. Right? He was in the mount of God. He was the anointed cherub that covered probably the glory of God. He was the head of God's creation. Right? He was the head of God's creation, and he was ruling God's creation at that time, as we have seen in the previous Bible study. He lost his authority there, and he was kicked out to the second heaven. And there, he continued ruling the kingdom that God had created. He continued to do so in rebellion against God. But not only did he rule the kingdom that was in his power, but he also attempted to take over God's throne, as we read about it in Isaiah chapter 14. And that's when he lost authority in the second heaven. And we see in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2 that God destroyed all of creation with a great flood of water. And then in Genesis 1 and verses 3 onwards, we see God recreating what he had destroyed. Right? And he divided the waters from the waters and made a firmament again, and put the sun, moon and stars and the other planets back in their place in the second heaven. But you see, Satan lost his authority in the second heaven. And from being an anointed cherub that covereth, we see him as Leviathan, the dragon, the seven-headed dragon, in the great deep, which is under the third heaven. Now, there is enough evidence in the Bible for this. And you must also notice that the Bible says that there is a great mass of water right under the third heaven, and the face of the deep, the Bible says, is frozen. So it's like glass, it's ice, right? It's like glass, and the Bible clearly talks about that. The face of the deep is frozen, and under that is this great mass of waters, in which is Leviathan. And of course, he lost his authority in the second heaven and was cast down to the first heaven. And that's where he became the prince of the power of the air. He is also called the God of this world, which would be the world system that we spoke about. And he operates along with his angels who rebelled against God along with him, as well as with the assistance of evil spirits or unclean spirits, which we spoke about in another Bible study. So right now he is the God of this world, and he's the prince of the power of the air, and his dominion is in the first heaven. Those are the first two falls of Satan. He fell from the third heaven to the second heaven, was cast out from the second heaven to the first heaven, and that's where he is today. That's his dominion.